Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. I'm joined by the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, as well as the Agri-News Director for 620 CKRM Regina, Ryan Young. I'm Doug Falconer, Agriculture Director at GX94 in Yorkton. It's been a crazy week this week, gentlemen. Of course, Donald Trump just announcing Friday morning that they would be stopping all trade talks with Canada due to a commercial that Ontario started airing in the U.S. And obviously, that's going to have an impact on agriculture. Kevin, your thoughts on that?
You couldn't make this stuff up and write it. The truth is stranger than fiction. Fiction has to at least make sense, but the things we see going on in the world don't really make sense. But I suspect this will be a short-term bump in the road. Last I saw, the ads that Ontario government and Doug Ford were running in the U.S. Featuring Ronald Reagan explaining why tariffs are bad for everybody's economy. Apparently those ads are going to be paused for a while, and I suspect that Trump will cool down and talks will continue. We still don't know just how much progress they're making on those talks. And of course, this isn't even, the Kuzma talks at this point. It's talking about existing tariffs on things that in most cases aren't directly affecting agriculture, but the whole trade saga just continues and goes on and on with different twists and turns here and there. But none of this is going to come to a conclusion anytime soon. We're going to be hearing about this sort of stuff for a long time to come, I think.
We also heard that Pulse Canada and some American pulse growers held a webinar on Monday, and they discussed trade issues. And then, of course, we also heard that American cattle producers are quite upset with President Trump for changing the amount of Argentinian beef that can come into the country, and that's been making live cattle and feeder cattle prices free fall in the United States for the last few days. Your reaction to that, Kevin?
Well, isn't it strange that Trump says, to bring down beef prices in the U.S., he's going to allow in more Argentinian beef. Well, that's allowing in free trade, reducing tariff pressure, which is how the world is supposed to work. But of course, the world has got lots of tariff protection and tariff rate quotas on lots of commodities that exist in the world, but it's sort of, he's breaking his own rules, saying you need more competition to bring down beef prices. And that hasn't sat very well with the ranchers in the U.S., of course. They're not pleased with this. They say, let the market do what the market's doing. Let higher prices will mean a rebuilding of cattle herds, and eventually high prices solve high prices. So they're not pleased. And then you also hear that the grain farmers in the U.S. are not as enamored as they once were with President Trump either, just because the ongoing tariff issues with China means the U.S. has not been selling any soybeans to China, and that's been a real drag on soybean prices and, by extension, Canadian canola prices.
Something else we got this week was a story that Ryan covered, and that was from Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada releasing their September drought monitor. Ryan, what was the latest on that?
Well, to kind of sum it all up, the drought conditions were kind of a mixed bag all around the province. If you look on the drought monitor map that AAFC posts every month on their website, there's sections of the eastern part of the province that don't have any drought conditions at all due to the above normal precipitation that some areas got, especially in the southeast in the middle part of September. And then there's some areas, excuse me, some areas that are abnormally dry or have a little bit of drought conditions and kind of expanded a little bit, but all things considered, it kind of remained roughly the same month to month if you look at August drought monitor as well. So a little bit of change, and there's also some extreme drought conditions in the northwest around North Battleford, Lloydminster, Buffalo Narrows, and La Ronge, some of those areas. So that's kind of the summary overall of the drought monitor.
Kevin, what did you think of that September drought monitor report?
I'm not as enamored with drought monitor reports. I'd rather actually look at percent of normal precipitation for whatever time period you're looking at. I know for a large area of the Southwest, it rained pretty good in the July, early August timeframe, and after that, there's many areas that have received very little rainfall. We're sort of back to worrying about moisture again after moisture was in adequate supply for a time. So the other thing to watch will be the fall stubble moisture map that typically comes out of Sask Ag, and that is, I think, a pretty good indicator of where soil moisture levels are as we go into winter, and is sort of the starting point for where we'll be pending snowmelt as we head into the springtime period.
Also, this week on Wednesday was the Saskatchewan government throne speech in Regina. And of course, Ryan, you're in Regina. And both parties were, if you pardon the pun, making hay on canola tariffs that China has imposed on Canada.
Yeah, that was one of the things talked about in question period on Thursday specifically. And the NDP wanted Premier Scott Moe to unequivocally, as they put it in their motion, to call on Ottawa to scrap the Chinese EV tariff or scrap the Chinese EV tariffs, which is something that they did last fall. And China, of course, responding with canola tariffs and tariffs on other products. But the Sask party did vote on it. However, before they did, they heavily amended the motion to say not only are they going to call on the feds to remove the tariffs, but also commending the premier for his work on the file, which Premier Moe did bring up in his response of his recent trade mission to China alongside Cody Blois, who's the parliamentary secretary to the prime minister, and boasting about the fact that only one provincial premier or provincial government has gone abroad to China and done all this over the last 6 years. So it's kind of an interesting war of words, literally, which, on one hand is kind of funny, and then on another hand, it's kind of disappointing in a way because we're really fighting over words when, there's bigger issues at hand here.
Kevin, what were your thoughts on that exchange, I guess, in the legislature?
I'm a little surprised that the Saskatchewan NDP thinks there's much ground to be gained for them by nitpicking over how strong Scott Moe has been on the Chinese tariff issue. I think that at most, Scott Moe has realized that it's a dicey situation and not as simple as it looks from the outset, because you have to worry whatever action you take, how the U.S. is going to respond, and it's a game of chess. And I just don't see that the NDP is gaining much support from claiming that the Saskatchewan party has not been as strong as they could have been on this issue. I think it's a small matter of semantics and not really an issue that they're gaining a whole lot of support over.
Another announcement that came out of Regina this week was that Tyler Greneveld has been named the CEO of Protein Industries Canada. And Ryan, you had a chance to speak with him.
That's right, yes, and he's looking forward to the new role. Of course, he brings with him more than 3 decades of experience working in the agriculture and food sectors with companies such as Corteva, and working on boards with CropLife Canada, Cereals Canada, and the Canola Council of Canada. So he's got quite a bit of the background on that. I kind of view that as more of a promotion from within, even though there was a search done to look at other potential candidates. And with his appointment, Tyler replaces Robert Hunter, who suddenly left the organization in August after just 8 months on the job. And one of the things that we talked about with Tyler was just his overall commitment to Protein Industries Canada's goal of making the ingredient manufacturing sector a $25 billion sector. I believe by the year 2035 is their goal, or 2030, one of those years. So he's looking forward to that. And he also hopes to kind of make that industry kind of in the same level as agriculture, mining, and other national industries. Try to get the same amount of attention with food and ingredient manufacturing as well. So we'll see how his leadership goes, but it seems like all things are kind of full steam ahead, so to speak.
Kevin, what's your take on Tyler Greneveld being hired for that job after just being the board of directors for the Protein Industries Canada?
I think it's useful that they made it clear that it was an exhaustive search and that they didn't just promote within somebody from the board of directors to be the head of Protein Industries Canada. Tyler Greneveld seems to come with very good credentials. If it was a fair exchange to try to make sure they had the best person in there, it often is very useful to have somebody that's got the experience of the board of directors and understands Protein Industries Canada from the inside and knows all the players. So I certainly hope that it works out for them. Protein Industries Canada serves a very useful role, and rather disappointing that the last CEO did not work out or did not last at the organization. So hopefully this is a fresh start for them and they can move forward from here.
All right. And then, of course, the Manitoba crop report came out this afternoon, or I guess it was late yesterday afternoon on Thursday, and it was their last crop report of the year. 97% of the crop is in the bin in Manitoba province wide. It was 99% in the Northwest region. I spoke with a crop specialist from Roblin who says that all that's left out is a little bit of canola, a little bit of soybeans. But it's interesting that the southwest region of Manitoba is only 96% complete. And he said what's still left out there is grain, corn, and sunflowers. What's your reaction to that news, Kevin?
Well, I think it's nearing the end, but there's been some areas with some heavy rain. That's probably is what has slowed down. Southwest Manitoba would be adjoining southeast Saskatchewan, so that area has received some heavy rain. So not surprising that they would be behind. And I believe that, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but the final Sask Ag crop report is coming out in the week ahead, and that will be a big summary of all of the information through the year and their wrap up for the season as well.
Yeah, that's right, Ryan. I believe you had mentioned last week that next week was going to be the last one in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, that's correct. The final crop report will be released Thursday, October 30th.
Excellent. Well, that's going to do it for this week on the saskagtoday.com roundtable. On behalf of 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director Ryan Young and the Chief Agricultural Editor for saskagtoday.com Kevin Hursh, I'm GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director Doug Falconer saying so long until next time.